We are back. Um, okay, I heard it though this time. Oh, okay, we're having an issue with the phones.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. But
Well, I
not
heard
the
you guys
I
talking earlier about Connor Oberst of Bright Eyes was doing some sort of fundraiser for Dan Osborne or something, right?
I guess
Yeah,
yeah, he's going to be at the campaign launch, which is on the
okay.
26th. I don't
Yeah, I
really
saw
know
them.
Bright Eyes, so you educate me.
Okay, they're a really big band in like I guess the emo scene, but like they've extended beyond that probably, and him specifically is very famous in that world. I saw them in April. They were in Brooklyn. He was fundraising, selling a shirt to fundraise for I forget what organization, but one that was helping immigrants, with ICE and everything. And he had a lot to say about that. He's very progressive guy. So that's
Nice.
cool that he's getting involved with that. Yeah.
I like to hear it. We are on the phones and ready to go. The number is 646-257-3920, and we are opening up the phone lines now. Strongly worded letter said, Matt, have you seen the drama about the guy from Disturbed getting booted?
I did see a little bit of on the guy's podcast Twitch stream them making fun of him, but yeah, he's a big Israel supporter that like signed a bomb or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Down with the sickness. Is that them? Yep. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Milo, as an Iranian American myself with strong ties back home, I can assure you that the Iranian people are for the most part, pro-U.S. and wouldn't mind basic relations with Israel. Your second guess pretended Netanyahu's exploitation of those feelings somehow invalidates them. That was kind of tone deaf, honestly.
No.
You can assure that the Iranian people are for the most part pro-U.S.
Yeah, that's silly.
and wouldn't mind basic relations with Israel. That's
This
not
iron
what he
iron
said
from
either
Langley?
way. What'd
Yeah,
you say?
exactly. This is a type
Langley?
of anti-Iranian thing where it's like the lib. You hear a lot of this when we have like a Sol Rod on Left Reckoning, where you're not supporting the anti-Ayatollah people in Iran enough, and I don't think Seamus. I think Seamus's perspective is good on that.
Dave from Jamaica said, "LOL, royalist IMers."
Exactly.
Cole from Little Rock. Bill O'Reilly is still alive, although I guess as a vampire, he can't technically die. But he can look horrible, which I gotta say, I enjoy seeing how old he looks. Even though we're all gonna get old, but he deserves to be, I don't know. Just, that's not a good thing to say. Go on.
I was just gonna say,
so go ahead.
let's put a pin in the still alive comment until you see how he's looking, in case you haven't seen Bill O'Reilly in a while.
Well, scratching that part, let's talk about it here, because Bill O'Reilly crawled out of his crypt to first he washed himself off with his falafel, took a nice shower with the falafel, and then came on News Nation with Chris Cuomo, whose brother just lost by double digits to Zohran Mamdani, despite having enormous name recognition, but he himself having just many women accuse him of both sexual assault and sexual misconduct. Bill O'Reilly also accused of inappropriate sexual harassment and behavior at Fox News, ultimately leading to his ouster. And they decided to use this opportunity to defend the suppression of the Epstein list, which apparently doesn't exist anymore. It existed before. Pam Bondi had it on her desk, and now it doesn't exist. It's not a list. Never mind, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison if there is no client list? Because the undergirding of the charges against her was that she was facilitating the abuse of these girls with the client list.
Listen. Who amongst us hasn't declared that we have the documents in our possession on our desk, only to find out that those documents we had in our possession on our desk are actually just non-existent and never existed to begin with?
The dog ate the Epstein client list.
All right.
As far as I'm concerned, I just think we need to congratulate them for showing restraint and not just saying that like Epstein didn't exist. That like there was no Epstein. What are you talking about? Because
Right.
I feel like we're 1 week away from that.
It was spelled Berenstain Bears.
Right.
Yeah, the Mandela effect.
Right.
Okay, well, with that caveat, thank you, Brandon. They haven't gotten there yet. They haven't gotten to the galaxy brain that and the true reality that this is all a simulation and Epstein never existed. So we can accept this level of denial, at least for now. Here is Chris Cuomo hosting Bill O'Reilly, who is defending Trump for burying the Epstein materials that he promised to release on the campaign trail.
Destroy people. I talked to President Trump man to man, eye to eye, on St. Patrick's Day about this and the Kennedy files and the King files. It was all one conversation. And he said, and I agree.
Can you pause it? I'm sorry. Okay. I just have to point out the gratuitous name drop and the specificity of the location on St. Patrick's Day. I'm sure this was a very saintly conversation between these two sex predators, but also like, we get it, Bill O'Reilly. You want to be as relevant as possible. You talk to the president. Keep going.
It was all one conversation. And he said, and I agree, there are a lot of names associated with Epstein that had nothing to do with Epstein's conduct. They maybe had lunch with him or maybe had some correspondence for one thing or another. If that name gets out, those people are destroyed because there's not going to be any context. Media doesn't care. About.
Can I just say, like, a lot of people have that sort of implication on probably the best of one being Noam Chomsky, which I would like to think is just like a rich guy, doing that, and Noam didn't have any involvement with. There's no indication that he did, right? What would clear a lot of that up is a actual investigation and not a cover-up. Because right now, a lot of people are implicated. You should look into all of those claims and make sure which one separate fact from fiction and get the criminals from the non-criminals. That's actually a reason to look into this more.
No, that's a common misconception. Everyone knows when you have a bunch of subjects, you just have to drop the crime. Like, when you have too many suspects, when too many people could have done it, you just can't investigate. Because like, what happens if
I would love to see them play Clue. I would love to see. There's too many suspects here. Board game over.
some correspondence for one thing or another. If that name gets out, those people are destroyed because there's not going to be any context. Media doesn't care about context. So you can't do that. You can't destroy human beings by putting out the files, whatever they may be. But you certainly can have Attorney General Bondi say, this is what we know, and we're going to protect the innocent, and he's a heinous individual. In that press conference, sitting next to Pam Bondi, should be Merrick Garland, the Attorney General and Joe Biden, who had these materials for 4 years.
Okay. If he had it for 4 years, who was president before Biden?
Yeah.
By the way, who was president when Jeffrey Epstein died in his cell?
Right. Yes, that's a good point. I mean, we've seen this over and over again, though. They constantly, for every issue under the sun, when they mention anything that happened in like those final Trump years, they act like Trump was no longer the president. Like they've done this for numerous things. Like they're like
COVID.
When they're talking COVID,
the vaccine, Operation Warp Speed. Yep.
The vaccine. They're like, oh, I hate those lockdowns. I can't. That's why I didn't vote Democrat. Who did the lockdowns happen under? Who did Jeffrey Epstein die under? Who was the vaccine created under? All these things was their guy, but they just conveniently forget that final year or so of Trump's first term of presidency. It's very weird.
I mean,
are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
He's both like constantly the victim, and I guess this is just what conservatism is. He's both like immensely powerful, strong, the ultimate alpha, a step away from God for MAGA, but he's also the victim of everybody around him, and it's just like all the people that he appoints and that are all his friends, they fail him.
This is how this sort of administrations or regimes have to psychologically sell what they're doing. This is the same thing with Nixon. It was all what LBJ did to me. They tapped my plane and stuff like that. Well, they tapped it because you were committing treason with the Paris peace talks, right? Like they view themselves as the victim, so they can go on offense and they call it defense.
Also, Bill O'Reilly used to have Alan Dershowitz on his show all the time. I don't know if
well,
they're
yeah, but
personal
Dershowitz
friends
didn't take
or
his
not.
pants. He didn't take his underwear off.
Take his
so
underwear
yeah, I
off,
don't even know why you bring him up.
Just to your point, Emma, a huge part of the cope has been like, this is not Trump keeping the file list buried. This is not Trump getting rid of evidence. This is like Pam Bondi. Like the right-wing MAGA crowd has really honed in on like Pam Bondi and like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino as like the triumvirate in charge of this like cover-up for some reason. They're all doing it for some reason.
But then why can't Trump, in his ever unceasing wisdom, get his like dogs to heel then? That's the thing. That's what it rubs up against, is like, he can't be this like incredible leader and also allowing all of the people beneath him to do things he disagrees with. Especially what's so funny about their complete cognitive dissonance on this is he's, of everybody in the administration, the most implicated. If this was Trump 1.0 and Acosta was still in the administration, you would be like, okay, maybe number 2, because Acosta let Epstein off literally with such a light sentence down in Florida. But Trump in the administration is the number 1 connection to Epstein.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just a common way that people, not even just Republicans, but like people in our political process cope with the lack of accountability for broken promises from our politicians. It always just becomes someone else's fault. Like, oh yeah, they're not doing it on purpose. It's like they're just so naive about their staffing choices. Like for some reason, like he just can't drain that swamp, or like he's getting all of these like conspirators close to him so he can like snap the trap on all of them at one time. Like they just can't deal with the fact that like obviously they've been, led astray.
Right.
It's very funny to do that after in your second administration, after giving 4 years out of power, supposedly to prepare all that stuff, and you're still doing the same thing of like, look at that, the first person I picked to head the DOJ is massively implicated in this.
They sound like the mom who like has a horrible son who treats everybody like crap and bullies people, but like she always finds a way to make an excuse for her kid's behavior, right? That's what they. That's how they
but he's a good boy. He's a good boy.
It's been helpful. It's been helpful that like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are like people of color and like a woman, because then they can extra hone in on it being about that. And then also, I mean, a lot of these people have their entire ego supplanted with Trump. So like they see so much of their own value in Trump's success, and to criticize Trump is to criticize themselves, and they can't bear to bring themselves to doing that. So, with Elon was a problem before. Now it's Pam Bondi. Now it's Kash Patel. Like it'll be someone else next week.
I have seen some like base Trump supporters like just to come to terms with the fact that Trump is probably implicated with this.
Yeah, it's
in media though, Binder, or you mean like actual people?
No, not in media, just regular people, just the voters. I have seen very few, but they usually have very funny responses like, we just got to come to terms that it's very possible that Trump is on the list and maybe he is a pedophile. But, the other things we need to, he's good for the other things though. And it's amazing to see them round that.
Yes,
that was come around to that, but
he's a white hat. He's a white hat nonce. That's what they're calling it now. They're calling he's called the white hat pedo cabal.
The QAnon thing, which is largely not so much the mainstream Trump supporters anymore, but the QAnon thing for the longest time was that Trump was actually undercover working in this, and maybe he did rape kids, but he did so to uncover it, like.
Yeah.
That's even worse.
It takes a predator.
Engermentum, had some funny tweet about how you're not even satisfied with Q FBI director. Because that's who Kash Patel was. What I think a lot of Democrats missed is this whole right-wing media ecosystem that everybody that staffed in the administration is super plugged into, from RFK to Kash Patel. And Patel was on every podcast that would have him saying that Epstein, the cover-up, is like the thing that is the most important issue, and he's going to deal with it. And then to have Mr. Bug Eyes pretending that there's nothing to see here. Oh, he killed himself. He's like you have to lie on behalf of the deep state to be FBI director, and they picked the dumbest guy who's unable to lie effectively to do that, and that's what's fun about this. But let's keep going.
Well, they've been saying that like it'd be different if Matt Gaetz was the attorney general.
Yes,
that's been part of their cope. Like if it were Matt Gaetz and not Pam Bondi, then the evidence would come out.
You know,
like,
Matt Gaetz,
deep cover,
who's super undercover with having sex with minors. That is like he knows it intimately. Intimately.
That's a good one.
Biden had it. Yeah, you don't hear that from the left, do you?
Hey!
Oh, no.
No, listen, what you do hear, which I agree with, is if Merrick Garland had stuff on Trump that's in there, he would have given it to him. Now, I have to say something. There's a point of clarification. Oh, 100%. But there's a point of clarification here. People are going to hear your explanation, and they may think, oh, yeah, he wants to protect all his buddies because they were scumbags who were in the...
Yeah.
Like I've actually seen this from a number of MAGA people, all from the voter base to other MAGA influencers on social media. This same thing that Chris Cuomo is saying about how you better believe that if Merrick Garland had it, he would have thrown that stuff out about Trump. But none of them who think like this is going to hurt the Democrats because the Democrats are the ones who are on there. None of them think that same thing, but going the other way where. If there were a ton of Democrats on there, why wouldn't have Trump and his administration release this stuff already? Like they don't think or they don't want to think this through because then it doesn't, their beliefs don't come to fruition because their beliefs might not be true. Like, I fully expect there to be tons of people on there, and the factor that keeps those people, the factor that connects those people isn't their political party or their ideology. The factor that's going to keep those people together is their status as elite members of society with tons of wealth and power.
Yeah, it's bipartisan. Like support for Israel is bipartisan. Like support for our insane national security state and our regime of surveillance, that the most likely explanation is that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset. That was what was told to Acosta, either U.S. or Mossad or a combination of both. But if he was a part of a honeypot situation to get certain world leaders or powerful people to have blackmail on them so they could be manipulated for United States foreign policy ends or Israeli foreign policy ends, then both parties would be invested in covering that up, especially the FBI director and anybody who wants that information to be used to further their intelligence aims. So that's the explanation. It's not that hard to figure out.
This tweet is still up from Christine Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, from July 6, 2019. This Epstein case is horrific and the young women deserve justice. It is quite likely that some of our faves are implicated, but we must follow the facts and let the chips fall where they may, whether on Republicans or Democrats. Props to Christine for keeping that up, despite the winds having shifted out for both parties on this issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Might implicate some of our faves. Mom. No, I'm joking.
Well, Bill Clinton. He's still getting out on the campaign trail for us. So
maybe Ehud Barak is one of her faves or something. We don't know, but we know that he was on Epstein's plane.
We all know Clinton is the Democratic Party equivalent of Trump when it comes to who's buddies with Epstein. Yes.
And they had a truce on it in 2015-16.
Yeah.
Right.
They did, right. And that's the point here. And it puts Trump in an uncomfortable position because he gets to lie all the time, but this is one thing that his base has actually been paying attention to. So.
No, that's not the point. It's the opposite point. I don't believe there is a client list. I think Bondi made a mistake when she suggested they had a client list. I don't think Epstein had anything like that.
Just a mistake? What's that called? Where you make a mistake about a statement of fact. Like, that's called a lie.
Right.
Wait, who made the mistake? Can you go back? That could be perjury then. Or the prosecutors made a mistake by basing their entire successful prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell on the idea that there's a list? It was just a mistake.
Right. It actually, like, listen, like, I actually think it makes sense that, like, the thing that, like, the conspiratorial right has convinced themselves exists, the exact thing, this, like, neatly designed client list that implicates everyone directly, I would believe that that version of it does not exist because they've just convinced themselves it does. And the right-wing influencers who are now members of this administration played along with it to help their own career. And now that they're in power are now fumbling around going, oh, what do we do if this thing doesn't exist? I mean, what I don't believe is that there's no details, like the DOJ saying, like, there's nothing out there. Like, we know there's something. Maybe it doesn't exist in the way conspiracy theorists believe it does, which is why their faves in the Trump administration, along with Donald Trump himself, are pretending that, like, oh, there's nothing we could show you. But, like, they're not telling these guys the truth either.
Yeah, I mean, we're pursuing that, Binder. Ryan Grimm tweeted this out, and this is the thing that everyone should remember. Anybody want to figure out what happened to the CDs the FBI found in Epstein's safe that were labeled young, parentheses, name plus name? And yeah, this is from 2019, the tweet. CDs in Epstein's safe labeled young, name plus name. That looks an awful lot like they found blackmail tapes. Like, what happened to the chain of evidence there?
Right.
No, I mean, that's just... those are just old family vacation albums,
right?
Like, you know, it's I mean, the story that they want you to believe on its face is completely ridiculous based on everything that we've been told up until this point, not even including all the things we've been told up until the point by those exact same people. It seems as though, like, they didn't even have a plan for what would happen if they got into power and they were actually expected to follow through on this particular promise, which you would imagine you would know there'd be a problem with it. And the inability for Kash Patel or Pam Bondi to, like, bridge that gap between what was going on 2 months ago when they were handing out phase 1 binders, the Epstein file release phase 1 binders to Libs of TikTok, to DC Drano, to, like, I don't know, the Hodge twins. Like, so phase 2 is like what? Phase 2 is like, oopsie, there's no information.
Phase 1, it's literally Epstein list phase 1, and then Epstein list phase 2, no list.
I feel like it's, you know, it may be irresponsible to not do it, but I feel like it's degrading to even have to mention specific pieces of evidence that go counter to, like, the very narrative they're trying to sell us right now, because there's so much, not just, like, out there, but, like, from them themselves recently, that it seems like degrading to have to bring it up.
This is the most convinced I've ever been about the intelligence theory. I mean, the way that they've lied about it, it just feels like obvious that that would be the case because there's nothing that's stopping them from selectively leaking it too.
Well,
selectively, like Binder said earlier, selectively leaking it to hurt Democrats, except for the fact that the trove of evidence suggests a larger conspiracy and one that implicates the state. And those are the ones that get covered up, whether it's like the alien stuff, what's seen in the sky. It could be some sort of testing for a weapon that they don't want to reveal. Like, those are the secrets that actually get covered up and that conspiracism dances around. Or sometimes, but go on.
No, to your point, it could be that. And I mean, there's a lot of evidence that too, but there's also in some instances, like, the child sex trafficking element is the most scandalous part of the Epstein criminal empire. And it's the part a lot of people focus on, but, like, where did his money come from? How was he using this money that he was moving around? There's likely a larger criminal financial empire of moving money around, possibly money laundering, for people who are still in positions of authority all around the world. So it could just be an element of, like, well, if this comes out, there are going to be a lot of people, just like when the Panama Papers came out, but, you know, thousands times worse, of people who have their entire wealth under a lot of scrutiny by nature of it passing through Epstein's hands and having no real provenance.
Well said.
Just a hint on that. There's a CNN article. Lawsuit alleges Jeffrey Epstein sent JP Morgan Chase execs photos of young women. Former Buck CEO Jess Staley allegedly exchanged sexually suggested emails. I'll just scroll down a little bit here. 1 month later, Staley allegedly sent another email to Epstein. I realize the danger in sending this email, but it was great to be able today to give you in New York City a heartfelt hug. In 2010, the filing alleges that Staley sent an email to Epstein saying, "Say hi to Snow White." Epstein responded, "What character would you like next?" When Staley said Beauty and the Beast, Epstein replied, well, one side is available. And most articles say they're unable to determine what they meant by referencing Disney characters like that. But I would just say that would be something that would probably show up in an actual investigation into this.
They want you to believe that they found tens of thousands of gigabytes or whatever of like selfies, of just like Epstein selfies. Like that's what they went through.
And Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell is just very clearly through her father, tied to Israeli intelligence. So like this is not hypothetical. It's not conspiracy theory. These are just public information.
Here's what I will say, though, and I've been saying on my stream, and I think it's important to highlight here, too. Even if this information is true, it's been delivered in perhaps the worst way possible by the least trustworthy people imaginable. Yeah. And they pretend as though, like, oh, well, because some people have gotten themselves just so gassed up on Epstein conspiracies that we have no idea how that happened. And so they're not going to believe anything that we put out. So why even try to bridge these gaps in like our rhetoric and these gaps in disclosure? Why even address the procedures that we've gone through up until this point? But the way that they've handled it, even if this information is true, superficially, it stinks to high heaven. And that's something that we can't overlook.
Right. Why would our base, who we've convinced there's a global pedophile ring with Jeffrey Epstein at the very top, and all these other actors and governments part of this global satanic pedophile ring, why do they all of a sudden think there's this global satanic pedophile ring tied to Jeffrey Epstein? I don't understand. It's exactly what you said, Brandon. They created the monster. They did this. They created this base that's expecting this stuff. But I want to say
I don't believe it, though. I don't believe what they put out but I'm just saying that, like, even if it were true, like, they've handled it in such a way that it's superficially like unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. They've backed themselves in a corner and they're lying to their base at the same time. It's like the worst possible combination of the things they could do.
Absolutely. All right, read some IMs, we'll take a call, and then we'll get back to some clips here. Congressional baseball fan, gonna predict it now. The JFK files and the Roswell files won't be able to be released because they're unfortunately just chock full of child porn.
I mean, some stuff has been probably more than expected, at least I expected, has been released on the JFK stuff, even probably too much where they weren't even redacting people's like social security numbers and stuff like that. But fair point. I didn't take the joke.
Well, we were actually asking this before the show, Matt. Why are they lumping the MLK assassination in there now? Because like that's like accidental wokeness, which
Mark Lamont Hill made this point. I think I can't remember where he made it, but that they're going to do some disclosures on MLK, which like Coretta Scott King thought that he was assassinated by the state. And there's been, I think, a lot of evidence toward that fact.
Yes.
Like a lot of those 60s assassinations.
Malcolm X was.
They're going to say what was held back from public perusal was evidence that he was a philanderer or a communist and that sort of stuff, and say, well, we have to be transparent now. So here he is, and all of evidence of his affairs, and to discredit him. Frankly, I think that's what I think that I meant. Again, I'm taking this from Mark Lamont Hill, but I think that's a good prediction.
That's a good prediction. Devoid reality. Emma, it's hot bug eyes, but crazy. It's not bug eyes, but crazy eyes to you. Okay, fair enough.
Then they bug.
They bug. Yeah, they bug. Gnome Grown, why doesn't Congress subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell? Great question. I'm not sure what the nature of her plea deal is, but I'm sure it's one that's quite friendly to keeping this information under wraps.
Who controls Congress?
Yeah.
It's all the people implicated by it on both sides.
The Democrats should use this. This is the kind of thing. They should use this. They would never, ever.
To this sound drop here,
Talked about for years.
he has been talked about for years. I remember being in college and the Lolita Express stories about Bill Clinton taking flights were coming out. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Molly Gray Jedi, Iran has thousands of years of culture and history, while America's longest standing institution is slavery.
No, it's the post office slavery. We got rid of that. Sort of.
Post office, definitely. Although we could say like the West's great, is colonialism and capitalism. Those are some pretty institutional hallmarks of the West. Swing State, I'm curious about the crew's views on what's happening in LA and the relationship on private firearm ownership. I mean, we had a memo from LA Taco on yesterday to talk about the activism and the journalism they're doing, and some of the underground networks that are being formed. But, you know, I think I'm not as, I mean, I think that people should have the right to buy a gun if it's regulated, and they have to take a class, and there's a licensing, and there's a cap on the kinds of, or on the amount of guns that you can purchase, and that weapons of war should not be allowed to be sold completely at all in this country. So that's my stance on guns. I'm not somebody that thinks that it's realistic to have no guns in this country. That would never happen.
I mean, as to the question of community self-defense, I don't view YouTube or main social media channels as a place that should be encouraging people who would otherwise not be armed to pursue sort of that thing. But as far as people doing it and feeling the impulse toward it, if you come from a background and you can be safe around firearms, which is, I think, a big if for a lot of people, even people that own a lot of guns. But I'm not condemning people who buy a gun, because you see the way this country is going by any sense of the imagination. And you look at whether it's historically the Black Panthers, or other even more current groups. I don't have anything bad to say against them, because I think I have, I guess, an Orwell First Amendment style right to at least a shotgun or something like that for defense against a state that is encroaching on liberties.
Ryan from the Lou, gotta say that Brian did a hell of a job these past few days. It's good to have a Thursday gang back, but I gotta ask Matt, what games were you playing on break?
I did no gaming on break. I was home, so and the answer would have been 2K. That's the only game I play anymore. But I did a lot of running.
All right. Let's take a call here. Calling from a 308 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 308.
Oh, I don't have you muted. I was just letting you enjoy the sound of the Great Plains.
Oh, well. It's a lot quieter than here. Beautiful silence. How's it going out there, Kowalski?
It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a heightened level of anxiety? Yeah, sure. Is the economy collapsing? Perhaps.
Perhaps.
But don't worry about it. No, actually, I wanted to call in because, well, obviously, good news. Dan Osborne decided that he is going to take on Lex Luthor. Which, I mean, very topical. New Superman movie, good.
I'm seeing it on Saturday. I'm excited.
Yes. Well, you guys talked a little bit about Osborne so far. I just wanted to talk a little bit about his opponent, Pete Ricketts. I was actually kind of in the camp hoping that Osborne was going to run for governor, just because I think he could get a lot done. The governors in a state like Nebraska hold disproportionate power over the legislature because he is a full-time position, whereas the legislature is a part-time position. So just like whenever that happens, the legislature can kind of just get steamrolled.
Right. I remember that with the attempts to limit voting in Omaha, I think, in the lead up to the 24 race.
Yeah, that was, it's kind of crazy that enough Republicans are actually just not on board to go off a vacation. But then again, Republicans really love vacations. I mean, tragedy hits Texas and boom, Ted Cruz is out of the country.
Isn't it crazy how Ted Cruz is never in the state for natural disasters, but every time there's a big game that the Texas team is playing in, he shows up to the stadium and they somehow lose? I don't know if those things are connected, but it's just something to think about.
Exactly. So if he is going to be running against Pete Ricketts, then he's thought about it and he understands what he's up against. Just so people are aware, Pete Ricketts and his dad combined are the #1 campaign donors in the state of Nebraska. You would think someone like Warren Buffett would be capable of beating him. Not even close. these guys are the #1 campaign donors to our current governor, our other senator, and all 3 of our House reps.
Wow.
I would say Warren Buffett probably
very wealthy
capable
family
of beating them. He just doesn't. Yeah. Right.
So Ricketts was our governor for 2 terms, and then when Ben Sasse decided to go do corruption down at the University of Florida, Ricketts appointed himself as the replacement. So this will be like I think it's his 2nd or 3rd time being elected. This will be the first time he'll be elected as our senator for a full 6-year term. So this is a pretty big election for him. So they've been hemorrhaging a lot of cash lately. But like I was saying earlier with the whole collapse of our state economy, Ricketts has a lot of baggage right now. The passage of this big bill is going to hurt Nebraska wind energy production, which has been a very big and growing industry. There's also been some cuts to the IRA that were pretty important. So, like, if Osborne can run on that, it'll be a pretty good hammer to be hitting them with, because wind jobs paid pretty well, and it was money that was pouring into the state. And they got rid of all the subsidies, which I believe layoffs has already basically started, even though those don't kick in yet, just because people are looking at it and they're just like, 5 years, this won't cash flow anymore. You can't compete with subsidized natural gas. It's just that the numbers won't work there. All the natural gas subsidies are still in play. So that really hurts a place like Nebraska. We don't really have much fossil fuels. Another big thing that has happened recently, which I was going to call in regardless, JBS Swift is the largest meat packer, I believe, in the United States. Them and like 2 other meat packers they control about 85% of the U.S. market for cattle slaughter. They recently got the approval from the SEC to go public on the New York Stock Exchange, which is something that for quite a while had a lot of bipartisan support to not allow happen, because since it's such a monopsony, they have been driving down incomes for farmers and ranchers everywhere they go. They're just a blight. Like, they go in and they suck up any type of profit a farmer or a rancher could hope to have, because there's no one else to sell to. They're it. And if anybody shows up to compete with them, they will lower their costs. They will send in investigators to try to find every little violation to get them fined, and they run you out of business. With them going them going public has a lot to do with their donations to the Trump administration, because I believe it was Trump himself who actually got it through the SEC. So there's a lot of points of failure for Pete Ricketts in a race like this that I think Osborne would be able to hammer onto pretty well. It's just that money is going to be quite a challenge, because the family is independently wealthy, and they just gave themselves, I don't know the number right off the top of my head, but I believe it's that tax cut's going to save them $200 million.
Unreal.
So, there's a reason why at all of his town halls, and I mean, a lot of those are going to be seen on commercials, he would just talk past everybody who would ask him a question at the town halls. It was insane. I've only met the guy once, and it was basically in passing. It's like meeting a vampire. And it's a really weird and unsettling feeling, because it's just like you're talking to somebody who has like no emotion, it's like no empathy. It is the strangest thing. It's like you're demons. Like, I don't know how else to describe it.
I have never met a billionaire, but I talked to someone who had, and they said something similar. Or it's just an eerie, I think probably because they're a sociopath and you can't get to that. And who knows how much of that mental illness diagnosis or disorder is also socially, but both biologically and socially kind of created. I think that there's probably a chance that it's both things.
They're hoarders.
But clearly it's some sort of deficiency of empathy that's a condition.
whatever it is, it triggers that lizard part of your brain that's going, danger, protect the children, and prepare to fight this because, like, the village is in danger.
Right.
It's like being stalked by a mountain lion or something. But no, I really do like that Osborne is going to be doing this. I think with how unpopular and how bad things are going to get here in the next year, that he's going to have a lot of opportunities to make economic arguments. Depending on how well the Republicans can pull off their, like, cultural war nonsense, I don't know how well that will play once unemployment actually starts rising, because farmers are in a pretty tight spot. Ranchers are getting into a pretty tight spot. If the meatpacking plants can keep putting pressure on everybody, like, there's going to be a lot of anger out there. And if he can just get a good message to the countryside, I think he might get a lot of rural votes. But he's going to have one hell of a ground game. I'm hoping to go to Omaha and, to that meetup. It'll just depend. But it would be great if he can actually unseat this guy. Like, just the harm reduction alone, it only is going to take 3 senators, and we could be sitting in a much safer place by 2027. So,
yep. Well, appreciate the call, Kowalski.
If you're in Nebraska, support them, folks. So you all have a good one.
Thanks so much. The underwear fronthole says Kowalski is describing a sociopath. Scary Carrie, what's with all the vampire slander? MPG, best way to beat rickets is with a lot of vitamin D. And Dan, funny. Make fun, have fun again. Unsurprisingly, Fetterman just tweeted, any calls to abolish ICE are 100% inappropriate and outrageous. I just saw he joined Dean Phillips in saying that Zohran's not a Democrat, more of a Democrat than you. He won the Democratic primary, and Democratic voters think he's a Democrat.
People who take Israel money want to turn America into Israel. They want to do at our southern border all of the type of walls that are across Israel-Palestine right now, and we can't let them.
Nope.
Who said this again?
Fetterman?
Fetterman.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No,
or Ricketts? Or not Ricketts.
No, Fetterman.
Phillips,
I thought you meant what Matt was just kind of, not that in particular.
The IM, yeah. Who are they talking about in the IM again? Who?
Ricketts.
No.
Oh, okay.
Fetterman and Phillips.
Fetterman, sorry.
And Phillips.
Phillips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, now that we're on the topic, let's cover this here. Ari Melber had Hakeem Jeffries on and asked him about Zohran Mamdani and asked him if it's a good thing for the party because we now have the official numbers. Zohran got the most votes in the history of New York City mayoral primaries. And he did that by turning out parts of the electorate that were disaffected, that didn't engage in politics, maybe as a high propensity voter. These are the kinds of voters that Democrats have lost over the years.
Alienated actively.
And right, with the suburban Republican strategy. And so there's a lot of consultants and wealthy Democrats and Democratic leadership that's their constituency. Like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer need to hang their hat, and particularly Schumer, because he's the one that was a big part of spearheading this. Their constituency is now like what they have cultivated, which are upper middle class suburban Republicans versus what Mamdani did, which is creating a working class coalition. Despite what you'll hear printed as fact in papers, Mamdani won voters really starting at around 55K to 150K, and once the wealthier donors started to vote, that's the voters that Cuomo won. But it's still being framed as it's like, oh, the well-educated white liberals carried him over the finish line. And there's in part truth that Brooklyn showed out a lot, parts of Manhattan showed out a lot, but that's not the story. It's just not what happened. This is the kind of thing that should be replicated across the country. And what's fascinating is I think that you see some Democratic aligned pundits or whatever, they're starting to see that this is an issue that the leadership of the party is more focused seemingly on tamping down this energy that the party so desperately needs then they are combating Republicans effectively. And here is Melber asking kind of point blank of Hakeem Jeffries why they're not more enthusiastic. This is the thing, they're getting young people involved. You're supposed to care about that. This was apparently the problem, but not like this.
Zohran Mamdani came out of nowhere with less money, less fame, beat the Democratic establishment, beat Mario Cuomo. I should say Andrew Cuomo, son of Mario Cuomo, known in New York. Is that a good thing for the Democratic Party?
Well, he ran a tremendous race. He outworked the opposition. He out-communicated the opposition. He out-organized the opposition. And I think one of the things that was key about what he was able to do is that he ran directly at the issue of affordability. Across every age demographic, it's the number one issue in the city of New York. Now, he articulated a very provocative platform in that regard. I look forward to sitting down and talking to him about his plans to actually implement that platform to deal with some of the challenges that the communities that I face are dealing with in terms of gentrification.
Gentrification, he says.
Yep.
He gave a quote, his staffer gave a quote, and we read this yesterday. It got me pretty heated on CNN, where they called his coalition Team Gentrification because Jeffries, his district, it went to Mamdani. Instead of embracing the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party who won his district, he's saying this to MSNBC, a more liberal audience, and then having his top political staffer say to CNN disparaging remarks about the movement on the other end. And then the quote that is so notable in this article is that they basically threaten the DSA members with primary challenges in the body of the piece. Leader Hakeem Jeffries is focused on taking back the House from the MAGA extremists. By the way, no Republicans there. This is Sam's, the bee in his bonnet, that they're calling them this focus tested thing from a consultant as opposed to saying it's the Republicans. The MAGA extremists who ripped healthcare away from millions of Americans, Jeffries' senior advisor Andre Richardson told CNN. However, if Team Gentrification wants a primary fight, our response will be forceful and unrelenting. We will teach them and all their incumbents a painful lesson on June 23rd, 2026. You mean like the painful lesson that Zohran just taught the Democratic establishment by winning by 12 points?
Yeah, I don't know if Farah Sufront Forest is part of Team Gentrification, according to Jeffries, or not, but she tweeted this out. Weird threat to make, since Hakeem already went after Jabari Brisport and I. How'd that go for him again? 2022 primary results. Brisport, 70%. Farah got 67%. If leader wants another public beatdown, he knows where to find him. These are empty, idle threats from these folks. Bring it on. Cannot shy away from this sort of thing. Absolutely not.
Brisport also would be a formidable primary challenge to Hakeem Jeffries.
Great.
Right. Also, I just love the idea that they go after them for a Mamdani or Brisport or any of these left-wing politicians or people who run for office. And the thing they automatically go at them for is, their voter base is gentrifiers. Gentrification is the issue here. The funny thing is, Mamdani, one of his policies would help very much so. They talk. Jeffries talking about the affordability thing that he ran on and Mamdani ran on and won. The freezing the rent for rent stabilized apartments. Those aren't gentrifiers living in those apartments. Those are lifelong New Yorkers or people who've lived in New York for a very long time who have rent stabilized apartments for the most part. Yet these guys always bring up that as, that's not going to help. That's not going to help. We don't want him to do that. It's amazing that the thing that would actually help the non-gentrifiers, these New York natives, such as myself, for example, they go after those policies that help those people, but then knock the gentrifiers, claiming that they're the ones who will really be the ones to help the native lifelong New Yorkers. It's amazing. But no,
it's even worse than that. And you're making great points. It's just they're stoking divisions within the electorate by calling other people gentrifiers as if this is like an active choice by people who are getting priced out of Manhattan to displace black and brown communities. This is a systemic problem that Mamdani is addressing. And they're like, for all of his talk about affordability, he's trying to pit New Yorkers against one another to cement his hold on power. And I think that's really gross, to be honest.
It is, and it's all in service of serving the same political donors that are ultimately underpinning both parties right now. Because I think what we're seeing in the very targeted, very venomous antagonism from, the left, right, and well, not left, but like the center left, liberal aligned media apparatus, as well as the New York Post and more conservative media, is that for both parties, but I think especially the Democratic Party, Mamdani represents a threat, not to the Democratic Party itself as an institution, but to the current establishment. The current, people who are in charge and want to be taking money from billionaires. And I think we can see from their behavior so far, their plan for the midterms and their plan for the next general election is to just let Trump basically have his way with the American people, with the American economy, make life as bad as possible while they make as few concrete promises as possible, because they want to be able to coast in on anti-Republican ideology. They want to be able to coast in just based on not being Trump, and they never want to be responsible for actively trying to uplift people's lives in a comprehensive way. And that's what Mamdani's doing. And he's, teaching people that they might demand more from the Democratic Party.
Exactly. All right,
and displacement,
go back
and a whole host of other provocative platform in that regard. I look forward to sitting down and talking to him about his plans to actually implement that platform to deal with some of the challenges that the communities that I face are dealing with in terms of gentrification and displacement. And
he just won those communities massively in the mayoral primary, big guy, but go ahead.
A whole host of other issues that I would normally talk about with any Democratic nominee, and certainly we'll talk about with our particular Democratic nominee in the context of the mayoral race. I think one of the things that we'll continue to try to do at the national level is to lean in aggressively to Donald Trump's failure to address the high cost of living. He promised to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, going up. Inflation is on the way up. Life remains far too expensive for the American people.
I got to tell you,
Democrats want to do something about it.
Respectfully, I see the pivot. You're good at this. That's how you got this job. But then I got to rephrase the question. You're not ready yet to say whether it's a good thing. You want to meet with him. You want to kick the tires. At this juncture, you're not ready to say that this turnout, this energy that he tapped in New York is good for the party yet.
Oh, no, listen. I think that when you can increase the electorate, particularly as it relates to parts of the electorate that came out in significant numbers, which include the South Asian community in many parts of New York City, and certainly younger folks under the age of 39 in New York City, that is absolutely a good thing. And of course, he should be credited with pulling off that kind of campaign that reached so many folks.
But the tension here, if I'm hearing some possible tension, is, as you know, the Democratic Party has had a hard time with some of these, whatever you call them, democratic socialists, insurgents, more liberal, energetic candidates, even when they do what you just referred to. So we have a history here from Bernie Sanders, some of the way the AOC or members of the squad were treated, and now some of the apparent reaction where people are wondering, is there room in the tent? Not saying you have a lot more power than him, not saying you would endorse the whole platform, but when his platform is affordability, ideas around democratic socialism, raising the tax rate in the city of New York, free buses, a different type of foreign policy, if we simplify, but much more harshly critical of the Israeli government, say, than I think the congressional leaders have been in terms of approaching the entire conflict. Is there room in the Big Ten of the Democratic Party for that right now, or for you, is that TBD?
Well, certainly we're a Big Ten party, and I think what I'll say in terms of the House Democratic Caucus family is that every single member of the House Democratic Caucus, from Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all the way to Representative Jared Golden, and everyone in between, progressives, New Dems, and Blue Dogs, we in the House, we represent the gorgeous mosaic of the American people. That's a good thing. Now, I think what we have to do is make sure that we can more intimately communicate with the American people, that we understand their challenges and their...
I can't.
Yeah.
Ari Melber, so he's an MSNBC host, and his politics seem like good, but not. I mean, not Mehdi Hassan or maybe even Joy Reid or something, like people that had been on the show before or on the network before. But that was like, you can tell he's uncomfortable with how they're scuttling this energy. Like, it's a gift right in front of them, and they won't take it. And it's because of corruption. And I don't know if this has ever been clearer to the public. And also, like, at the beginning of the interview, he goes, I want to know how he's going to implement this. Dude, Bill de Blasio froze the rent multiple times. Mamdani can do that easily.
It's incompetent that you don't know already.
Yeah, and in terms of funding, in terms of funding what he's trying to do, like the free bus thing, it's because he's been very clear, raising the corporate tax rate from around 7% to what it is across the river in New Jersey, which is 11 and change. That can be done if Hochul or whoever's, if Delgado ends up winning that primary, whoever's governor, that's what they're going to have to agree to, although maybe actually it would be the next fiscal year, so it would still be Hochul, I should say. That's a question for Kathy Hochul, because all she has to do is basically say, okay, I'm going to work with the mayor and not try to undercut him and make sure that his promises are fulfilled. That's not a question for Zohran. That's a question for Kathy Hochul, but he would never ask that because this is just a way to smear him as unrealistic. And what happened to vote blue no matter who, huh? The Democratic Party voters overwhelmingly by 12 points made Zohran their nominee. And you have the leaders of the party undercutting him, and it says everything.
Let's take a look at the comments to this video, just very briefly. The top comments. We need new leadership in the Democratic Party, says the first. Hakeem, quote, Trump is bad is not the answer. You got to do something else. Next person, I'm sick of the Dem solution. Just wait till the next election. How did that work out? Next person, held out high hopes for Hakeem Jeffries, but find him woefully uninspiring as Schumer, who I don't find inspiring at all. And then just another one. Y'all are going to have to get rid of AIPAC if you want that big tent to work. Exactly. You cannot include AIPAC. And that's a lot of Democrats. I mean, majority, I would think. We have to primary all of them. Anybody who has taken Israel money is not going to be good on any of this stuff. It's clear as day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just also lays bare how, flawed the thinking that Democratic Party politicians don't know what's popular is. They see what's popular, they know what's popular, and they actively resist it. They actively are antagonistic to it. And when Mamdani wins, they're going to be fighting tooth and nail behind the scenes to make sure his agenda is as impeded as possible, while on the front end using him to fundraise around the country. That's going to be like their exact strategy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's just, what's fascinating is to see Melber asking a question that I think is way more connected to the base than anything Hakeem Jeffries is saying. We played that clip of her name is Jennifer Welch. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah, right. Yesterday, and I've seen their podcast before. They do good work, but they're fairly mainstream. Get people to vote for Democrats. I don't know if they would consider themselves socialists, right? But them basically being extremely critical of leadership in a way that I'm hearing from people who are lifelong Democrats who did not like Bernie Sanders, Hillary people, Biden people, whatever. I don't know. We need new leadership. These old people have to go. It may not be ideological for them, but they sense it too.
The Democrats for years now have been telling their base that Donald Trump and the Republican Party under Trump is an existential threat to democracy and everything that the liberal base loves about America. And then Trump wins, and they're just like, well, I guess Trumpism is the new thing now. And they even capitulate to them on a number of issues, immigration being one of them. And then just expect their base to go along with it. They've created same thing we were talking about earlier with the Republican Party creating a monster with their base wanting to go after all these supposed pedophiles and pedophile rings out there. The Democratic Party has created the monster with their base by telling them that Trump was a threat to democracy in this country, which is actually true. But the Democratic Party wants to now just go along with some parts of Trumpism and just give up. And the base is like, are you kidding me? So, in that sense, they created a monster with their own base too. But at least the Democratic base, the monster they created there is based in a reality and are angry about something real and substantial.
This graph here from Owen Winter.
We showed this yesterday.
But just look at how, first of all, Mamdani extremely close with lower income working people to an incumbent with the massive name recognition of Cuomo, and then middle income, and then that lead loses out to Cuomo.
Yep.
I mean, this is their worst nightmare.
It is.
That somebody can get both of those folks, the professionals that are typically like, say, Lander, it helped out there, especially like that's the coalition that Dem leadership doesn't want to see, is sort of professional liberals and more working class social democrat type folks that they're terrified of it.
Brad Lander, he can do whatever he wants to do. He's setting himself up to be Mamdani's number 2 if he wins. But if he chooses to take his politics national, I will canvass for this man across my district in New York 10 if he primaries Dan Goldman. And we should be seeing this in a variety of different districts, including Hakeem Jeffries' district. It was Jabari Brisport, right, that we were showing earlier in terms of...
Ben Farah, yeah.
That's the crossover with his district. That would be great. He should primary him too.
And just one final point on Lander. I've said this before, but the model that he showed, I think, is even more important than Zohran, because I think like Chiose, Jabari, like Dem socialists have charismatic people.
Right.
It's progressive, the sort of institutional progressivism that needs to be the link to really empower that and not stabbed in the back, frankly. And Lander played his role perfectly. And then you see how formidable that is when that doesn't get divided based on that side of the coalition deciding that we can't play ball with this farther left stuff.
And that's the other thing that I think we need to also focus on from a national perspective is how do we get these matching fund systems in other parts of the country? Because part of why Zohran he's a phenomenal candidate and as charismatic as hell, and has great instincts and knows how to message and campaign and all of that. But part of why he was able to get over the finish line is that when you have these matching funds and he met that goal and then got the millions that was able to like get his word out, it creates this positive momentum that gets people on board who would have otherwise been disengaged because they thought this is not even possible for him to win. So much of what is terrifying to the Democratic establishment right now is that it's now been shown, whether it's AOC or other members of the squad or Zohran, no, this kind of politics is possible. And once you win, it creates this inevitability that it's an energy people want to be a part of. And if there's more of these matching funds to combat the influx of corporate money in other cities, municipalities, districts, and states around the country, this is how we try to claw back the explosion of dark money in our politics after Citizens United. And I hope that other folks, and it's not, and ranked choice too, that's a big part of it. But for me, I think even more, well, no, ranked choice is a big part of it because Lander, that was instrumental to his act of solidarity. So ranked choice, but I would say even more importantly, the matching fund thing across the country is the lesson organizers maybe should take away from this.
One final thing. This just reminds me of the way Zohran needs to enter the system is when Trump came out. So before the RNC in 2016, there was all this talk of there's going to be a coup and Ted Cruz is going to do something like that. And Trump's going to speak on the last day, but what's going to happen before then? So Trump comes out on the very first night and does this. Because
usually they hide the nominee until the final night,
exactly,
right?
But he puts it to bed. This is what Zohran, and I think Zohran's doing this, but I just want to play this moment.
I'm muted.
So you know what song's played, and he comes out with this silhouette here, and says, "Actually, Daddy's home."
Here, wait, I'll play a little sound effect. There he is. There he is. All right. Yeah, Zohran needs to do that for sure.
Just a shot-for-shot remake of that, please.
But they do have something in common in that they can make simplistic policy brands like resonate. I mean, build the wall was a joke, but that's what he was saying over and over. Freeze the rent, build the wall.
These party establishments are alienated from their bases, and that is an opportunity. And I think, ultimately, I saw Giannis talk about, we have to be very careful because the Democratic Party elites are never going to actually give in, and they will prefer Trump and the Republicans winning to this. They will split the coalition intentionally to keep people like Zohran out of power. And we have to keep that in mind, and I think figure out a way to be strong and just ice them out of the paint and get them out of here, whether it's somehow doing this to capture all the parties nationwide, or it is to build up an apparatus that's so big that the DNC becomes irrelevant.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We can get excited about Zohran, but I'm more inspired by this. All right, we're going to take one gotta be quick call, and then we're going to wrap up here. I feel badly. I kept people on the line for quite a while. Calling from an 857 area code. 857.
Hey, guys.
Hey, you're the final caller of the day. Gotta be quick.
I posted this to our subreddit, and then I also sent it to the Discord chat. My veteran status in Boston allows me to bring up to 5 guests to the Museum of Fine Arts for free any day. If we want to see something special like Van Gogh, it's $7 each. And lets me bring up to 4 guests for free to Isabella Stewart Gardner, and I can bring 3 guests to Institute of Contemporary Art.
Are you inviting us to the museum with you?
Anyone who is coming through Boston can come to the museums for free with me. Yes.
I'm a veteran too, so let's make it 10.
Yeah, 10. Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah, that's exciting.
Yes, we're going to go do it as a group of 10 at the museum. I mean, that's a big walking group, but I think you can manage.
Field trip.
I was just
with those numbers, we might manage to take one of the paintings home with us.
I mean, what to each their own. I'm not interested in art theft, but
what's the movie with Pierce Brosnan, the remake, the Thomas Crown Affair?
Yes. So why are by the way, soundboard audio now coming through, someone says. What's the point of the call?
I was just letting you guys know that anyone from the community that is coming through Boston can go to the museums for free with me. That's all.
Seems like a valid reason to call.
Well, you know what? Why don't you put that in the Discord?
I would disagree, Bender.
Hey, I'm trying to be helpful and constructive. I don't know if we have that in the plans anytime soon, but if you want some MR friends to go with you, just post in the Discord about this.
Yeah, no, I have. I thought I would call in as well.
All right, well,
Right,
now you
I
got the word
agree.
out and free advertising for the Discord post. Appreciate you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
If anyone ever has any extra Mets tickets, please call in and let me know, and I'll be happy to take.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm paying for museums, but
Speaking of the Mets, they oh
Knicks
my
tickets?
God, they were up
blowing
1-0
it.
and they just gave up 3
They're blowing
runs.
it. They put in Stanek and he melt down as usual.
Of course the rain delay now. I mean, whatever. Hate the Phillies. All right, they're not playing the Phillies, but they're just like losing ground in the division
The Orioles.
No, I know, but they just had the worst June. All right. Hanging up the phones. Gonna read some IMs and get out of here. Sasha, just renewed for the 4th year. Love the channel and people making it. Thank you for the great interviews and all the fun. Well, thank you.
Thanks for the support.
And you got a shofar. Scraps Malone. I think we all know some of these people were just in correspondence with Epstein for one thing or another. So what was that one thing or the other thing? Well, the Chomsky thing.
Money to MIT.
He went, like, Epstein hosted him for some debate with somebody else, right? That was what it was. Still not great, but I think, like, yeah, there's people that rode on his plane that that he could have been trying to rope into the sex ring, that maybe didn't take the bait immediately.
Well, I mean, you gotta understand
know fully, but yeah.
Not to interrupt, you gotta understand with an operation like this, it's not as effective if the only people who are in contact with you are in the criminal part of your operation. You have to have like a higher like level of people who are insulating you from, like, you know, that way when you're with like a particular person, it can't be known like, is he there for that reason or that other reason. So like there was like a level of him just trying to get close to people for normal things, but also insulation for sure.
Which is not to say it's excusable, and there should be apologies for it. But I've often said this about Bill Clinton. Say Bill Clinton never did anything actually then ride on the plane, right? Say that's the case. What do you think a victim of Epstein thinks when Jeffrey Epstein said, you know who was on this plane last week?
Yeah.
You think you want to go public?
Yeah. I mean, and Virginia Guilfoyle just died by suicide, which is horrible.
Insane.
Scary Mountain Wizard. Wait, the Mets belong the lead? You mean like normal? Well, Edwin Diaz wasn't closing today, although maybe he will in the second back-to-back. I miss football and hockey and basketball, so I'm trying harder with baseball these days.
No, baseball is better than all of those sports. What are you talking about?
I don't know about that, but I'm trying. Pedantic Pete regarding, although the WNBA has been fun. Pedantic Pete regarding Epstein, can Congress subpoena witnesses and evidence and investigate this? It can be a big, beautiful bipartisan committee. Well, they won't. Because King Trump is not going to let the Republicans do this now.
And all their faves are implicated.
Yeah. But if they did decide to remember that they are a different branch of government, then maybe. But for now, they're just rubber stamp for...
Congress is more corrupt and beholden to these sorts of nefarious interests than it was during Watergate.
Well, yeah, right? Live, laugh, Luigi. One has to wonder if Bill O'Reilly is on the list. It's fair question, given his friendship with both Trump and Dershowitz. Mr. Brown's adult baby. Emma, everybody knows Bright Eyes. The First Day of My Life was their biggest song. All right, well. Adamant's lefty. Brandon is on the money when he mentions that the base can't admit they've been duped. While it's definitely true with Trump fans, it can really be applied to Republicans since Reagan. Boomer Republicans can't admit they've been led astray for 40 years. G. Trump supporters won't change their mind with any of this coming out because the child predation accountability was never the core of their support for Trump. It was just the thing they used to imagine themselves as righteous and their enemies evil. Well said.
Remember their, what was that movie that they were all obsessed with?
Sound of Freedom.
It's the same thing over and over again. Those guys were all, implicated and stuff too.
Nassau County spokesperson, donate to Delgado by tomorrow. It's the first fundraising deadline, and New York Gov donos are matched 6-1. Good call. I want to learn more about his platform, but I know he's running on single-payer healthcare, and Hochul is not, so that's enough of a reason. To at least, maybe if you have some extra change, support him before the matching funds come out.
Oh, by the way, Abdul Sayed within striking distance, according to polling in Michigan.
I saw.
I think him and is it McMorrow? McMorrow should figure out way to.
McMorrow needs to drop out.
Exactly.
I said this yesterday, Matt.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about Lander. McMorrow needs to do what we did in New York.
Yes.
Haley Stevens is a Zionist AIPAC plant.
Yeah.
I am in awe of the gall of this campaign in such a Muslim state that was I shouldn't, not using a 9/11 phrase purposefully, but you know what I mean. Like, it was the ground zero, again, divorcing it from that context, for the uncommitted stuff, and the Democrats losing ground with that community. And we're going to run somebody that's just openly saying, I want AIPAC money, give me. There needs to be a uniting, I think, around Abdul Al-Sayed here, given that polling. Yeah. I thought McMorrow might be number 2, but she's not.
She's pretty far behind. So yep, figure out a way to do the right thing, and you'll get rewarded for it like Lander is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she has a long career ahead of her too. She could run for Congress.
But people will interpret it as spoiler if they're not able to coordinate a way to beat Stevens.
Yep. And God, Michigan, for being blue for that long, to have like a CIA senator and an AIPAC plant, it doesn't need to be this way.
Disgraceful.
Tom Lofink, Emma, please restart ESVN so I can spend 45 hours talking about the British and Irish Lions. They're currently undefeated in Australia. Well, maybe someday. All right, 3 more. So, I just read that one. Schmuck, Coomer, and Mamdani's win can be partially credited with a willingness to run on a positive policy advocacy wall. Ranked choice voting encourages voting encourages in candidates. We're trying to bring RCV to Michigan. Be on the lookout for ballot petitions to sign. I will try to call in with more information tomorrow. Sounds good.
Although, I think it's also just a sort of social democrat or democratic socialist way of campaigning. India Walton won the primary the same way with this sort of type of messaging and a positive vision of what the state should be doing as opposed to just a, negative one.
Devoid reality. At the last No King's Day, Jeffries was nowhere to be found at protests, but wait, he was raising money from AIPAC. And the final IM of the day. Ramona Frankenstein, if we're going to learn from the Trump campaign ways that the Mamdani campaign can win, let's get to it. Zohran needs to vow to arrest Hillary Clinton. If he does that, he wins 125% of the vote. Well said, Ramona. All right. Appreciate you all. Good to see you guys. Binder, Brandon, Matt, and Brian. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. It might take all the strength I